Hey guys, it's Troy here, and it's time for more vintage goodness. We went up to the DC Pen Show not too long ago, and I was able to pick up several pens. I already shared with you the Conklin, the crescent filler from 1918, 1919 in there that I had previously gotten. Well, I also picked up this particular pen here, Wahl Eversharp Decoband. I had good success with a Wahl Eversharp Decoband that I picked up at the Triangle Pen Show. About a month and a half before the DC show. Really liked it. And this pattern really grows on me. The pearl and black, was never a huge fan of it previously, and then I started to get some Schaeffers in it, and, when I saw this one and the price it was at, I wanted to have it. So I picked up this, was really happy with it. I did a video on it, and I'll put up a link to that video. So when I'm walking around the DC show, I didn't have any pens in particular, but there are always some that will get my attention or can be on my radar at any time. The pens that I really had in mind going there, I didn't really see any, but I'm attracted to vintage as well as new, and the new Decobands are absolutely gorgeous. They're big, they're fat, they're chunky, and they feel great in the hand. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're also absolutely expensive, which is why I didn't get them. Which is why I got this for like 1/3 the price of what they were going for, a vintage circa 1929. This, circa 1931 or so, according to the books that I have read. And those of you who are not all that familiar with Wahl Eversharp, they actually surpassed Conklin to become, one of the big brands here in the United States. Many of you may be more familiar with, or maybe you've seen Skylines. I love the Skyline. I've done videos on Skylines as well, and I've got 3 or 4 of these kicking around, and I just think that they're fantastic pens. Some people love them, some people hate them. I actually side on I love them. So, Wahl Eversharp was always one that was a consideration for me buying more. And I've got several over in my drawer, and I've got a really beautiful coral, shorter ring top that I added to my collection some time ago, and I may have done a video on that one too. I'm not sure. It may have been just a pen mail video. But when I was walking around the DC show and I saw this particular one, I stopped and I talked to Myk Daigle. Myk sells a lot of pens, a lot of vintage stuff, and I've bought from Myk previously, and this was the first time I ever got to meet him in person and taking a look at his wares at his table. You can still find him online, but primarily you're going to find him selling on Facebook as well as on eBay. I'll try to find a link and put that up for you from Myk's shop. But that blue, absolutely beautiful blue. I got to admit, this is one of my favorite shapes of a pen. Just last night I was commenting, Antique Digger had put up some Schaeffer flat top in black celluloid, and Schaeffer flat tops are some of my favorites. Well, you know what? Wahl Eversharp flat tops, although it's not really flat, it's slightly, just ever so slightly convex. This general shape of a pen is probably my favorite shape. It's not as distinctive, let's say, as that Skyline, but this absolutely tells me elegance when you look at it. Simple, yet elegant. Not only is it a gorgeous blue, and you look at it, that it's called a Decoband because of the decorative band that is on it. And it's the exact same kind of band as is on the other one. On the clip, you've got a very nice Wahl Eversharp imprint on that. You've got the gold seal. And I got some closer up photos if I don't happen to get a good shot of it here. It is a lever filler, vintage lever filler. And you can see at the tail end here, you've got another slightly, just ever so slightly, convex tip with a gold ring there. So when I saw this, I said, all right, let's try it out. Got a price on it. I said, you know what, I am definitely willing to pay that for this particular color. One of the other things that made me go ahead and get it is this is one of the pens that was left from the estate of Cliff Harrington. Cliff has been a staple in the pen world for years. I've purchased from Cliff at previous pen shows. I've got a really beautiful Waterman with a filigree overlay on it, as well as a Waterman glass cartridge pen, I think from the 1930s, that I picked up from Cliff just off the top of my head. So, you know, I got a nice chance to talk to Cliff, and we shared a few things in common with our background. And we had some great conversation outside of pens, but also looking at pens. He had some other great pens that were there that Myk was taking care of for Cliff's estate that I really, really liked. Some more brand pens. Those were a little out of my price range for what I had brought with me for a budget. Because keep in mind, I had just finished shopping at the Raleigh Pen Show just over a month prior. So I show up with enough money and cash to purchase this pen, and I went ahead and did it. So it is a screw top. You open it up, and I love the girth of this particular pen. And it's got a nice section. It's not too small. It's not too big, but it is smooth and tapers out. But it fits great in the hand. And I can tell you, I have been doing a lot of writing with this pen since I got it. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. I got some good shots of the nib as well that I'm going to share with you if this doesn't give you a really good close-up of it. And basically, what it says on it is the Wahl Eversharp, and then it says gold seal signature. Now, I was told that some of these were personal points. It doesn't say personal point on this one. Then again, it doesn't on the other one either. But this one, believe it or not, looks like it's a stub nib. So I'll give you a really good close-up of that. You probably can't tell very well just from being here in my hand. But this looks like a stub. And it certainly writes like a stub. There you go. Maybe that's a better close-up of it. And there's your feed at the bottom. Now, when I got this particular pen, I inked it up. I was excited to try it, and boy, was I disappointed. It did not write, hardly at all. I was like, really? I don't feel like tearing it apart. One of the things that Myk had told me is that none of the pens that he had out of Cliff's estate could he vouch for in terms of whether or not they had been totally refurbished. And I said, well, I can replace an ink sac. And he said, all right, well, good. So I went ahead and I tore it apart. So obviously took it off. I detached the section from the barrel. I went ahead and knocked the nib and the feed out. And I took off the old sack. The old sack was still on there and pliable, believe it or not. But boy, it sure was a fat, wide sack. Now, by measurement, the inside nipple for the sack is 19/64 of an inch. So, in theory, it could take a size 19 sack. This was definitely bigger than a 19. It was definitely bigger than a 20. And I only have sacks on hand up to size 20 because I'd never run across anything bigger, quite honestly. And probably the reason why is because this barrel is, the girth of it is big enough where it could actually take a bigger sack. So that's probably why somebody put a much bigger sack than was necessary when you measured the nipple that you cement the sack onto. So, all right, well, I didn't put on a 19, I put on a 20. I went ahead and reassembled the pen. I polished it up, cleaned it up a little bit. Not that it wasn't clean beforehand, because it looked great. But I went ahead and polished it up some and inked it up, and it's like, ooh, yeah, baby, yeah! That did a whole lot better. I was like, this is sweet. This particular lever actually had a little bend to it, and before I walked away from the table, Myk was able to take some pliers and bend it back just a little bit. It was just a hair off where it wouldn't seat totally down in there, but just, like I said, just like 2 minutes with a pair of pliers, he got it working good. And that's acceptable to me the way it is right now. There's a little bit of a hump there, but that's still acceptable, and it works. So, now that I got this baby put back together, and I've been writing with it, like I said, a lot of letters with it and notes. It's been a daily carry for me, and I've been leaving it here on my desk, and day in and day out, I've been using this baby because I absolutely love it. I'll show you how it writes here in just a little bit. I may even just show you some measurements about this particular pen. The other thing is looking at the nib. When I said it's a stub. It almost looks like kind of an oblique to it. You really got to look really up close, and you can actually tell that there's just a slight angle to that grind. But whatever that angle is, it works absolutely perfect for me. I can't really call it a right oblique or a left oblique or anything like that. Matter of fact, here's a little graphic of what obliques look like for your edumacation. But I can't really call it like a right oblique nib, but like I said, or a left. As the case may be. I'm trying to remember which one. But it actually, for me, in my hand, the way I hold a pen, it works great. Let's see how this baby writes. This absolutely beautiful, gorgeous blue Wahl Eversharp Decoband. I don't need to have it posted, but you can. It doesn't backweight it tremendously, but it is kind of awkward. I mean, I don't need to play baseball. I guess I could bunt with a pen, but definitely don't need one that big, so I'm going to set it aside. So, let me show you the pleasure that I've been having with this particular pen for a while. So, a Wahl Eversharp. It kind of sings on the page a little bit when you write with it. But this is a Decoband. Circa 1931. The other one I had was circa 1929, according to the book that I had referenced. And when I looked this one up, they said that they were making this particular color in, about 1931. It's a good wet writer, and this particular paper is probably not the best. It's been fairly fountain pen friendly, but I see I've got some feathering on this particular paper, so it's probably not the best to work with. But it is in a notebook that I keep on my desk and I do use from time to time. It did actually fairly well with some modern pens with a fine nib that I was writing with. I put into this some Waterman Serenity Blue. That's an old standby of mine. Waterman inks are great, and they're easy to clean. They're well behaved. They work very well in vintage pens, a good pH level for them, and I've never had any problem with any Waterman ink I've ever used. So I use a lot of Serenity Blue. This one is a stub. You can see it's got a little wider line to it than normal, and yes, you can get some good fat lines with it if you want. Wet writer. But every paper that I've used, and yes, you can hear it squeaking, but it is smooth. Regardless of the feedback that you hear, it definitely has been a great writer. I've written lots of letters with it, taken lots of notes, carried it, and for the past 2 weeks I've been using it incessantly. This is become one of my favorite pens in my collection. Just from the past couple of weeks of use, and I keep gravitating towards it. Whenever I go to reach for a pen here lately, I've been grabbing this one. It doesn't always meet the need, because sometimes I need a fine line for writing in a log or something, something not quite as wet, or on like regular old copy paper. Not the greatest pen for that, but I keep finding myself, like, especially in Ayush paper, I've been using a lot of Ayush for letter writing, and it's just been doing fantastically well for this. So, Decoband, vintage, yay, a great big plus. A big old plus. Absolutely. If you can find a good Decoband, do it. Now, just for curiosity, just for grins, I'm going to whip out this one. And I know that this one was still inked as of yesterday when I pulled it out and tried it. It was still writing. So, just to show you the difference, this has got a little finer line to it. It actually is more of a medium writer, but it's definitely got some good spring to it. It's got some flex to it. I gave you a writing sample in that last video that I did. Absolutely glides across that page. But you can see the difference, how this one is a lot thinner. This is a lot stubbier and a fatter line to it. But both of these I've been really, really happy with. I mean, I cannot complain one iota. Very pleased. Vintage, Wahl Eversharp, Decoband. If you can find them, they're worth picking up. You can generally find them anywhere in the 200s up to the 400s. I've seen these up to 500 depending upon where you get them. Yeah, I didn't pay that much for either one of these at all. But you're going to pay a couple $100 minimum in order to get these. So it is definitely worth consideration and something adding to your collection. And you can tell a little bit of difference in the 2 years of production, looking at the clips, just comparing the clips between the two. So you can see where they changed that clip just within 2 years, where this was made 2 years after this one. So anyway, highly recommend them. Big Daddy T, happy.